So I've got these sliders here, and what they do is they actually scrape a web page and they load products dynamically so that the managers don't have to come in here and add them. And as you can see, they take a long time to pop in. So this seemed like a great opportunity for me to add a skeleton slider. So I opened up Adobe Illustrator and I made two artboards, one for mobile, one for desktop, and then I added the images of the shoes onto it, and I'm going to go ahead and trace around these or see if I can get a nice outline of each of these boots. So I'm going to do this the easy way and use image trace on them, and then you can play around with the settings. I want this to be mostly black, and that looks pretty good to me. And there we go. Now I got one solid color boot, which I think looks really good. So I'm going to go to image trace and expand that. Let me ungroup it and see if I can get rid of some of the background. That could actually be useful. I'll keep that off to the side. And then I'm going to change the background color of this to a nice light gray. So that is how I will edit the SVGs and get them ready. So I have the one for desktop. Now I am just going to copy this. Let's bring the size down a little bit to match what is going on the website. And then I'm going to export these as SVGs. So here are the exported files. Oops, not that one. And let me drag it into the window. So there's the desktop version. That looks great. Skeleton 02. That looks great. I'll just rename these M for mobile and D for desktop. So here I have my SVGs open in code, and you can see there's all these paths and they have different fill. Probably don't need any white fill. That might be a problem potentially, but we'll see. But we do want the fill that has EEE in it. So let me look for EE. Yep, there it is. So I'm thinking I'm going to do this with CSS, where I'm going to have it transition from this light gray color to a dark gray color and then back, so that you get kind of a loading indicator and know, hey, these images are loading. And I want to do that with CSS. So I'm thinking I would write a CSS selector that would find all the paths with the attribute of fill equals EEE. So I'm going to give that a try. So let me just add an index.html here. And I'm going to copy the code from both of these into my HTML document, into the body. So that was skeleton-D. Now I'll open this with Live Server and see what I get. So this is what I get. Here is the desktop version. Here is the mobile version. So that is all looking good. Now let's try to alter the fill on those SVG paths. So let me go ahead and add a style tag here. And then let's find all the paths. And then we want to specify the fill equals EE. And then let's change that just to test it. Save it, and there you can see that the color just changed. So it looks like that method will work. So next step is to add an animation to this and to get it animating between that lighter color and probably a darker color gray, not a black. So I did a quick Google and found a perfect animation for this, and I repurposed it for my needs. So essentially over 3 seconds, and it's going to repeat, it's going to change from the light gray to black and then back to light gray. So I applied that and gave it a test, and it is working exactly how I wanted. So now that I have my SVGs, I have my animation, I can start plugging this into the asset and work with the JavaScript to get it to appear and disappear as needed. So I added the SVGs inline to my asset. I have the mobile one up top and the desktop one below, and then I added a couple classes to them as well. I added the class SM only, so that just means that this is going to get hidden on screens larger than 640 pixels. That's an internal class that we just reuse, so that's not something that's built into CSS. But then I added the skeleton loader as well. So that's what we'll use to make selections so that we can scope the animation for these skeleton loaders. So I went ahead and added a couple CSS rules. One for the swiper container. I made it a certain width, so that way it'll take up the entire section it's supposed to. And then I added this rule to make sure that the SVG takes up 100% of the parent container, which is the swiper container. So let's go ahead and see how it looks. Here it is on desktop. Let's refresh. And that looks terrific. Now let's watch those products pop in. And you can see once it loads, actually I didn't even have to add any JavaScript. Swiper just took care of that for me. So that functioned pretty much exactly how I wanted it to. Let's try it again with a slightly smaller window and make sure that it looks good on there as well. And then we'll also, of course, have to make sure it looks good on mobile. Yep, that looks great. So let's try mobile now. And you can see that looks great as well. So really the last thing I need to do is just change the color a little bit and add the animation in. Okay, so now I'm going to paste in our animation that we were working on earlier, and then I'm going to make a couple changes. First of all, I want to scope this a little bit. So this is our asset ID right here, and then I also only want to make changes to paths that are a child of skeleton loader. So that way I know we're only going to affect the asset we're trying to affect. And then instead of call, I don't know what else could be out there named that. Let's just change that to skeleton loader. I'm not totally sure what the naming rules are for that, but let's see if that works. Okay, so let me refresh this and let's see what happens. So far so good. There we go. So that is really great. And in case you're wondering why these are both the same, this is an improvement on this asset down here. And so I'm just having them both on the screen to compare them. So let's see how it looks on mobile now. So far, so good. So far, so good. Wow. Okay. It's not perfect, but I am pretty happy with that. So that's it. I'll have to do some QA, especially for Mac and people using Safari, because I know SVGs can be terrible to work with on Safari. So I'll have to test that out. I think another way it could be done if SVGs aren't an option is you could make it a PNG, and then you could animate the opacity. So if it doesn't work, that's probably the route I'll take. But hopefully you enjoyed watching this. If you know of a much better way, go ahead and comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching.